voice in your ears and the face on your screen. I'm Perfect Purvis, and this is Pro Football Sweden, presented by Rare Athletics. This is our inaugural season talking football in Sweden, so feel free to comment and send messages about how we're doing. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Jalo Juice. What up, Juice?
What's up, bro? It's good to see you. Now I can finally say it's been a minute. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a little bit of time. I think I took last week off. But let's get into the show. Thanks to our partners at American Football in Finland, Improve Athletes, Dog Mentality, and Pro Football Sweden. The PFS podcast is now available everywhere you listen to your podcast, and you can see us visually here on YouTube. Wherever you listen or watch, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Now let's get into some football. All right, so it's first quarter here on the PFS pod, brought to you by Dog Mentality. Do you got that dog in you? Okay, we're going to talk energy from last week's games. We saw the semifinals of Super Serien. Let's go over each game, kind of talk positive and negatives of each game. I want to do first, let's do the not so close game that actually was close. Carlstad Crusaders defeated the Oslo Vikings 42-28. Juice, what did you see that was positive in this game from these teams?
The beautiful thing about the playoffs is that everybody understands it's go hard or go home situation. And you can see that Oslo didn't just give up. You know, Carlstad was just physically better, and they came with the game plans. Jarman, bro, he's I put two fire emojis next to his name. You know, he controlled the game really well for their offense, and he kept them in a good position to win this game. So I like that I saw positive from both sides of the ball, physical, battling, good football. That's the positive I got from that game.
Okay, I'm going to go over my notes because I wrote them down this time, so it might not come out as good. But I'm going to talk about the Oslo Vikings before I talk about the Crusaders because, I feel like the Crusaders played how we expected, but I was really impressed by the Oslo Vikings. Again, something I said before the season started was they needed this season to get accustomed to what it takes to play these teams in Sweden. And we saw them, they went through the gauntlet at the beginning of the season. End of the season, they finished it basically undefeated. They went 0-4 and then went 4-0. And then they ended up losing this game in a game where they shouldn't have been in it. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Carlstad was up like 21-0 or something, or 21-7. Like they got up big early.
Yeah, it was 21-7 at one point, but they can't.
Yeah, and Oslo kept fighting back. They never gave up. One thing that really stood out to me, obviously, Will Saul, like you gotta have him. That man, he just changed things for them. When he was playing offense, he always had a chance to score. There was times where he's on the offense, just putting him on the field. Like they didn't have to give him the ball. Sometimes they put him as slot receiver. Sometimes they put him at running back, had him run a little flat route, and you see two defenders go to him, and then you see a pass go behind where those defenders just vacated. Like they were able to use him as the offense, as a decoy, and as part of the offense that really helped them. Only thing that sucked is when he was playing offense and defense, you could tell it slowed him on defense a little bit. He didn't have that same motor that you want on defense. So it's that catch-22. But what really stood out to me about the Oslo Vikings was CJ Fowler. Like this he's a man because he was under duress the entire game. The entire game. There was never a time where he could just sit back and chill. He always had to do something, and he kept showing up. Like it was tough. Sometimes his receivers weren't getting open. He had to create time to let them get open. He had to run with his legs. He has to be tired because he was running the whole game. Yet as the game kept going, I kept seeing like they need a play. They need a play. He makes a play. You just give him some time. He's going to make a play. Eventually, they're going to be able to move the ball. And it was really hopeful for the future. I don't know what their plans are for him next year or whatever, but this team that I saw at the end of the season and even in this last playoff game, this team could be a contender in this league next year. Like they grew. Even defensively, the defense played better in this game than they have all year. And I've said it all year that I think the Oslo's defense is one of the worst in the league when you take away Will Saul. But there were times where those guys stepped up on that defense. Obviously, I'm not going to name any of them because one game does not give you the respect of me figuring out what your name is, but it does give me, hope and inspiration. This team could be much better in the future. Last thing I want to say good about the Vikings was, Snotter, number 3.
Yeah.
Hey, when he got that interception in this game, it could have changed the outcome. If they had scored after they got the ball after that, and then no, they actually did score. He got an interception, they scored, and it was 21-14, I think, going into half. And they got the ball coming back at the beginning of the third quarter. If they score to start that third quarter, the game's tied and we're back at 0-0. But unfortunately, they didn't score. And then, the game got 2 touchdowns away and out of hand for them. But seeing him go to defense and make plays, number 9, again, I can't ever remember his name because he's so random on the field. He went and played defense. Yeah, but you saw it.
Yeah, they brought everything out there. They was like, we got to win this game. Offside kick, fake punt. That was not the right time to do the fake punt. They could have.
The fake punt was horrible timing. But I mean, I'm not mad at your hustle. Like I'm not gonna knock. I mean, you got to try it sometime. I mean, I would have done it with Will instead of Rune Nielsen. I think is who they had. But again, when Snotter was out there, it just showed like this team is all in. So I know we're gonna give kudos to the Crusaders, obviously, but also Vikings. You don't feel bad about going out the way you did. Like y'all left it all on the field. You could see it, and you got a lot to be proud of in that loss. So the real positive for me is that also showed up. Like I'm really happy that they showed up in that game. I guess I should say some positives about the Crusaders, huh? I mean, Crusaders played as good as I expected them to play. I got more positive to say about them in the preview for the next game. I think that'll be a better thing for me to do. What about negatives from this game, though? Like anything you saw that you didn't like?
I think there was a few penalties, a few drop passes. You'll see some of the drop passes when we get to the next game. That was the negatives that I was gonna add on to, but I think to wrap it up for all of them, it's just sad to see a season ending and you working hard. That's a sad feeling. It's a sad, like my emotions is with them, especially even when I seen tears, so it's just like, man, I feel that because I've been there 2 times already, last year and this year coming up semifinals, and it's just like your season is over. And your emotions up there. What am I going to do next year? Are we going to play here again? Then a few weeks later, like, nah, man, we got to get this back. I already know. No guys like 135, 135.
135.
But
have a
you know,
sign?
I mean,
Is there a sign for that 135?
they probably got some little gang sign over there.
The 135, yeah.
I'm with you. The positive. Carlstad. We'll get to that later. I think they did what they're supposed to do, and I love to see young Kennedy, back grinding, and
that's probably one of my negatives. Is I still feel like they don't use that kid enough. I'm gonna throw this out there. It needs to be said. I honestly believe young Kennedy is the most talented running back in the league. Easy. And I say that as, in my opinion, Casper Wedberg is the MVP. But young Kennedy is the most talented running back. But his team does not want to use him. Like, it's crazy. Even in this game, for him to get his stats up the way he does, he has to do huge things with limited amount of touches because the ball is always going to those multiple receivers they have. And even in this game, if he hadn't had that long touchdown, he would not have had a very good statistical game. And then at the end of the game, they decided to give it to him to kind of seal the deal. And it's like, you could do this all game. Like, he is that good of a player that he could be the central force, but they just don't do it. That's just a personal pet peeve. Obviously, their offense does fine, and there's nothing wrong with the way they do it. I just feel like that man is talented out there. And, I mean, if there's some other teams in Europe that need a solid running back, a European running back, maybe y'all need to knock on that man's door so he can get some real burn. Because I feel like it's just he got too much talent to not be used or utilized if you want to be, PC about it. One last thing I'll say that was a negative for me was I could be wrong on the amount of times, but The cornerback from the Oslo Vikings, I want to say number 20 is the number I think I saw. It could be him and maybe another cornerback. But I saw this guy line up and press man, turn his ass to the quarterback. I mean, his
Oh, I
whole
haven't
ass to the
seen. I
quarterback.
see. And got
Yeah.
scored on. And got
And
scored on
then
Malvin.
and then let Albin just run a straight vertical. Didn't touch him.
Yeah,
Just
I
chased
had
him
the
and wasn't
same
fast
thing in my.
enough.
I had the
And I'm
same
like,
exact thing in my notes.
say
When I
what now?
when I see a cornerback cock like this at the line of scrimmage, it's over,
Like,
bro.
he
It
had
is
nothing
over.
facing the receiver. He was actually looking at his own sideline. And he was like, I'm just gonna run with you. And then he couldn't run with him. That's what threw me off. I was like, okay, I get it. You're like, fuck it. I'm gonna give him the fade. We're gonna do this. I've done that time and time again myself. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna give you the fade. Let's see what's gonna happen. But he couldn't even run with them. So what you doing? And then
Yeah,
later, Albin had a hell of a day on him too, because I seen him catch a couple passes over him and in spots where Jarman did a great job dropping it in the bucket, but Albin,
yeah,
all hands. But again, like you said earlier, it's got to be disheartening. Snotter comes in playing safety. Will is doing his thing. The front seven is actually holding up, playing decently. And then you got one guy out here looking like Boo Boo the Fool. Like, what you doing, bro? Like, we trying to win a game here, and you basically giving them points. Like two of Albin's really big catches were in situations where all the DB got to do is use a little bit of head. Even if you got to do a pass in the fair, tackle his ass. It's only 15 yards. We'll take that. But you giving up tutties while everybody else is playing their heart out over here. And for me, it gives me that ick. It does, because that's the one thing that I really didn't like about this game was those were situations where it's like this game was so good, but you always knew at any point they could just point at that guy and say, "We got a better guy than you got," and that's what they did. We got a better guy than you got, and that sucks because the Vikings really had. There's nothing you could do. You don't have anybody else, I guess. That's all you got. So if they decide to go with that at any point in time, they can beat you, and that's really what this whole game was. With the Vikings played really well, but they didn't have enough to beat this team. And that's it. I'm saying this team because I do believe they have enough to beat pretty much everybody else in the league if it really came down to it. The way they played in this game, they probably could have beat everyone else in the league except for the Crusaders because they just didn't have enough personnel-wise. So I guess I'm going to let that game go. And we'll move on to the next game where it was a barn burner, as they call it. Stockholm Mean Machines beat the Terraso Royal Crowns 30-28. Last second field goal with 15 seconds left. Woo.
real,
Let's go
bro.
positive. Let's go positive. What did you like about it, Jalo?
I mean, I love to see competition. I love to see the competitive nature on the football field. I love that Tiriso used Jeremiah, offensively, getting them on those big options. And the reason why it worked because the options was working. So for them to bite on that and lose contain, that was really good. Towards Stockholm, when Matt went down, and I knew that they had the receivers that can do it. They stepped up. Robin stepped up. The other receiver, I don't remember who. I mean, it's quite new to me. I don't know some of these newer receivers for Stockholm, but they stepped up. And one thing that I wanted to point out, the quarterback name is Derek Green, right?
Yeah, Derek Green. Yeah.
Ever since he's been playing with them, like he looks like he's been there from the beginning of the year. Like he doesn't
He's
feel
very
he doesn't look
confident.
like he's uncomfortable. He has the
Yeah.
confidence, like he's controlling it. He's making his little checks. He's making his signals. This is going to be a good matchup. I can't wait to see this finals matchup because Slade Jarman is doing the same thing. But it was just something about Derek, that he looks like this is his team. And finally, what was the previous quarterback name?
You put me on the spot.
Yeah, hey, whatever. But the previous quarterback they had there, though, it took him a little bit to get there. Not saying that he was bad or anything like that, because it was one point I was like, oh, he finally gets it. Then the next game he get hurt. But
yeah,
Derek got it from the beginning. So that's one big positive that I got to say about Stockholm's offense.
I mean,
Because
Derek
without
Green
him,
is an outstanding
yeah,
quarterback
yeah,
with international experience. That's another thing. It wasn't his first rodeo, and he knew what his job was. Come in, you need to be the plug, and he came in and he was the plug. That's really hard to do in Europe with there being
yeah.
so many differences between the leagues. I think he was coming from the French league or the Italian league. I can't remember which one. One of those two leagues, what he played in earlier this year. So him coming to Sweden from that is a big change, and he really made that change. For
Yeah.
me, what I really liked about this game was that for once I could look at the score and like I saw the score of the game and I'm like, oh man, I gotta watch this whole 4 quarters to know what really happened. And I did. Like the score was actually indicative of the game. Like the score is accurate of what you saw in this game. It was a decent amount of scoring, not necessarily high scoring, but it wasn't like there was a stalemate on defense. There was ebbs and flows. Both teams kind of had a chance of, oh, this team's kind of in control. This team is in control. And when it all came down to it, the team that needed to make a play made a play and got the ball in position. And then Stockholm does what they do. Field position was huge in this game, and that's what Stockholm really won at. I want to say they made 3 field goals in this game. Is that the case? I want to say they kicked 3 field goals.
Yeah, I know Tirso made a field goal.
Tirso made 1. Stockholm kicked like 3, but there was a lot of situations where Tirso was like right out of field goal range. So then they'd have to punt. And they weren't able to like get those points. And it showed up later in the game because early in the game, it really looked like Tirso was going to, walk off with this. Like they were, in my opinion, they should have been up by a couple touchdowns early in the game. Just a couple, bad plays here, miscommunication here. I didn't like the play calling from Tirso. Look, I know it looked exciting. And I mean, I do. Yeah, offensively. I do like those like reverses. I think those are great to sprinkle in there, but outside of those couple calls, like the flow of their play calling is what kept them from scoring a lot of times. Is what kept them from getting in the end zone. Is because they just wasn't enough of a flow that fit them. And again, there was opportunities to be had. I don't have the stats with me, but I do think they had a couple of like opportunities where they were either close to the red zone or in the red zone. They couldn't convert, and it was mostly play calling. Like they have the personnel, they should be able to score against that defense. No offense to the Stockholm's defense, but they should be able to score against that defense. They weren't able to. And in the second half of the game, if you're watching it, it never looked like Stockholm was going to lose. Like it just looked like, okay, Stockholm's in control. Tirso's trying to find something out, trying to figure something out, and they never did. And even when they scored at the end of the game, it was like, oh, that was crazy. I was not expecting that because they hadn't played like that in that second half. But at the end of the game, they did come up and make plays. I think it was more personnel than play calling. And that's what just really stood out to me.
I'm a fan of Tirso's OC, and I don't know if that's a blend of Jay's plays, but another positive thing I wanted to say, and I think this really goes both ways, is that when I seen Tirso came out, I was like, oh, them boys came out ready to play. And I like as well that they had the offside kick, but I did not think they needed to utilize it right there.
That's what I'm saying. Play call wise, they scored. It was 7-0, and then they did an onside kick, and it's like, why are you doing that so early? For me, I got a real, and I wish Antoine was on to talk about it. I got a real Lil Bro vibe from Tirso. I felt like they were pressing the entire game. I felt like even them doing those reverses, they're trying to like do more than who they are because they felt like they needed to win the game. And when it comes down to it, that's what ends up, that was the difference between these two teams. Stockholm didn't do nothing crazy. They played their game and eventually they were going to win. Tirso, they played like, oh, we got to do something different to beat this team because we can't beat them. And you could see it. You could see it in the play calling. You could see it in the way that they played in the game. You could see it in the emotion that they showed towards the other team. While you have a team like Stockholm Mean Machines, Matt Resloff goes down. My boy Robin Miranda with the dirty gritty showed up big. Yeah, all day showed up big for them. Had a couple toe touches as well. Like
went out there and played.
Yeah, went out there and played his game. Clutch. While when you look on the other side, I don't think Tirso played their game. I think Double V came out, boom, touchdown. That was awesome.
Hey, shout out to my boy. Very first play, shout out to Cannon. Look, spin him around, made the guys miss and lights out. He was gone.
See, now that felt like, Tirso's offense. But then as the game went on, you didn't really get back to that. I mean, they tried to give him the ball a little bit, and he did do well, I think, in the game. But it really there was a lot of situations where I was like, okay, this is what you do. You throw the ball to Eddie. You throw it to Kevin Borzay. You get them the ball right now, and you're good. And they didn't do that. They would do something a little more complicated, something that took a little more time to develop. And it's like, why? And I felt like they were in their own heads about who they're playing. No offense against Mean Machine, but their defense is not that good. This team should be able to score 40 points against that defense. And the only reason they didn't in this game was because I felt like they were in their own head about how important it was to win the game. And ultimately, that's what did them in at the end, is overthinking situations that you don't have to overthink. They could have handed it off to Double V a couple more times and let him get rolling, but they decided to pass. They had a couple drives where they go 3 and out. They throw 3 straight passes. I'm like, why? That don't make sense. Like, there was no rush. You're not behind. Like, the game is in a good flow. And then you come out with these 3 pass plays that aren't even easy pass plays. They're all like double routes and 5-step drops. And now you give them the ball again. And it was a situation like this that happened throughout the game. And obviously, if you're just looking at the stats and the drive chart, you might not see that. But if you're watching these games and watching each drive, you'll notice, like, man, that didn't feel like they were being themselves. And then they go on defense. And they come back and they have a good drive. And then they come back, again, they get the ball, and, they're not themselves again. Next thing you know, they're down by 2 touchdowns. A lot of this game was like that for me watching from TSO's side, because I felt like TSO should have won the game. I really felt like they were the better team out of these two. But again, when you're trying to do stuff that isn't what you do, it comes out like this.
Yeah, if you was to ask the question, who lost the game? TSO lost the game. And when you said that you felt like a big bro vibes, they knew that they had nothing to lose. They came with that energy. Then it's like, we scored first play. Bro, we know. Yeah, we know that. We know that. Yeah, what's up, big bro? Then big bro's like, I got a couple more years on you. You know what I mean? This like the big bro who's like 18 and the little bro like 17, like I said 17, like 12, like he's still like that type of age gap difference. But on the negative though, I want to move over to that. And I gotta call out my boy Eddie again, bro. You dropped I
want to say, I'm glad you said it.
It was hard, but it was an easy, tough. If it feels like somebody been playing football for like 2 years, you're like, all right, that's understandable. Bro, Eddie, you got to catch that, man. And there was another one on the side, you got to catch as well. But as you can see that he had a little bit of a back problem. Like he was getting up, he was just looked so stiff, But it ain't an excuse, I'm playing through injuries right now. 30, and I'm getting it done, Please don't watch the last game that we had that I dropped the touchdown. But shoot.
I was gonna say, it kind of looked like the same play in the same part of the end zone, but I ain't gonna say
the same part of the end zone, but but that game was more important. That game was more important than this one.
Yeah, it happens. I thought I agree with you. Like, you can't drop those passes, but it goes back to what I've been saying.
I'm a hypocrite.
I felt, that's tough on you. I just feel like TSO really played like they were the little brother. And I think that's not a good mentality to have in the game. Now, we can sit here, on the pod and be like, little brother, big brother. But when they step on the field, you got to have some respect for what you can and can't do and go out and do that. Football isn't like sports like basketball where you can draw up a play and that can win you the game at the end of – no. You put in work all year. You've done certain things all year that you need to execute in this game. This game isn't a standoff thing. It's a culmination of what you've been doing all year, and in those situations where you have an opportunity to score a touchdown and you drop a pass, that's a culmination of what you've been doing all year. And if you can't make it in those situations where you need it the most, you don't get to the ship. That's why this game was so indicative of what actually happened. It was a close game, but the team that was more true to itself won. Like, one of my favorite games to watch this year in football. And I've been watching a lot of football, obviously, between Finland and Sweden. But this was a really good game to watch. I think both teams played really well, and I'm really glad it went the way it did. I think I picked Stockholm to win, so that's cool. I'll say this last thing, and this will be my last negative about TSO is this is what I thought y'all was before the beginning of the season. I said y'all are a team that is really good, most talented, but don't play to your potential. And this is what happened when you don't play to your potential. You end up losing a game that you should and could have won. Now it's been, 3 years that they haven't beat Stockholm?
Yeah, it's been
Yeah,
they didn't. So I
3
remember I was
years.
there in
They
2022.
Stockholm was
Yeah,
undefeated for
yeah.
2 years before this season. They've been undefeated for 2 years, and now
I
this
think that
season you
the
still
video
didn't beat
like
them.
one loss. I think I don't know if it's
Not not
2021
not
or 20, but they got one loss to Örebro, and I think Örebro
Yeah,
like won
that
like
was
the champion.
21. Yeah,
21.
that was in
Okay,
21. So they hadn't
okay.
lost in 22 or 23,
Yeah.
and then this year they lost to Crusaders. So it's been 3 years since you beat them. I wish Antoine was on here. 'Cause I feel like we can't say little brother and big brother. We just gotta say other. There's Stockholm, and then there's the other team. Like that's it. Any last thing you want to say about this before we move on?
Not the other thing I was going to say, just for the negative on Stockholm side of the ball, is, I see a little bit of undisciplined nature. You
Mhm.
know, Sebastian getting knocked out of the game. Hitting the quarterback, but he hit the quarterback late a few times. But the last one, I'm not going to say that one because that can be accidental when you hit somebody in the helmet.
Yeah.
You can't control it all the time. Somebody's moving, you hit them. But I remember 73, one of the linemen, after they kicked the game in the field goal, throwing the head down, you see Pillback running on the field like, come on, get over here. I had that. Pillback gave me that look before, but it's just like Pillback, he demands a lot from these guys. He demands discipline. And, I don't like, that you see something being uncontrolled from Pillback or the coaching staff of Stockholm. So that's the negative thing I would say. But other than that, Stockholm, I was impressed with how they played.
Yeah. Very good games by both teams, though. That's for sure. All right, so this weekend we have the Super Serien final for 2024, Stockholm Mean Machines versus the Carlstad Crusaders. We're going to talk about keys to victory, brought to you by Rare Athletics, where you can buy apparel and accessories made for players by players. More than just accessories, Rare provides custom jerseys for teams all over Europe. So head over to their web shop at rare.se and upgrade your drip today. So, talking about this game, who's the home team? Carlstad?
Yeah, there has to be because they're the number one seed.
Okay. So let's go Carlstad. Keys to victory in this game. What do you think they can do to, bring that title back to Carlstad?
Well, one, they gotta remain confident, not get cocky, but remain confident. And let's start with the defense. I think their box is one of the best boxes. I gotta say pause, huh? I gotta say pause to that. I think I think their front seven is one of the best front seven in the whole Super Serien League. Their linebackers fly to the ball, physical, even attacking Wilsau, and Wilsau probably can say the same thing. Just the way they explode to the ball. I think that Roy Kelly, he's going to have to do his part in the secondary against a team that has a lot of weapons at receiver. But another thing they can feel confident about is that we know that Matt Freslov is not going to be playing in this game. Um, you see him posting on the sideline, he in coaching mode and things like that. So his injury, he's not recovering from this season. Then I got to figure out a way to outsmart their quarterback, So I think that's what it's coming down to. To keep it simple, I think what I'm getting to from saying everything is like defensively, they're gonna have to have a good game plan, stopping their quarterback, running back. Don't forget, Casper, your MVP, and
Mhm.
slowing down Stockholm receivers. Then on the offense, I think Slade Jarman, he's going to have to go to the drawing board because Stockholm's already on the drawing board. They got your play scattered up. They got your signals scattered up. I know your signals now. I seen them doing it a little bit in the game. Probably just switch them up. Keep the same play, but just switch the signal to something else. And my boy, we call him Van Comp.
Yeah, Will Van Comp.
Will Van Comp, I like him, great receiver, but he hasn't been making noise. I mean, obviously they've been on a break, but he hasn't been making the same noise that he's been making early in the season. So I would like to see him step up, and I think that Slade Jarman will have a game plan to spread the ball to all of them. Spread the ball to them, get the ball to number 8, and do your thing. I think that's the main keys of victory for them.
I definitely agree with a lot of what you said. I For me, keys to victory for Carlstad. Let's go defense first. just stop Casper Wedberg. I think you can live with their receivers making plays here and there,
Yeah,
but
especially now.
if you can force the meme machine to become one dimensional, that's one thing they've been able to do all years. They've been able to run and pass the ball like at an effective clip. Even when you beat them, they were able to still kind of do both. Just didn't they weren't able to do it at the rate to get the win. So I would say if force them into a hey, we got to pass it. Force them into second and third and long all the time. And again, it's going to take a little while because they'll on second and long or third and long, they'll give the ball to Casper because he can get you 9. Like he can get you that just running the ball or catching a quick screen or something. I would say try to focus on him and take him out of the game. You have a good enough front 7 or a good enough box. I'm gonna leave it out there. Good enough box that you can up front if you really want to, if you focus on that. So keep him contained. Make sure he's not the reason that they're able to do what they want, and force them into a situation where their offense has to do what you want them to do, which is pass the ball. And you're okay with them passing the ball because you have a good enough front 7 to get pressure on the quarterback and a good enough back 5 that you can easily cover most of the receivers if you really need to. Not saying that those receivers are going to be easy to cover, but I think they have the defensive backfield quality enough that can cover them. And then offensively, spread the ball, like what you said. You got, I think Carlstad's receivers are much better than Stockholm's secondary. I think that's easy. But I also think Carlstad's offensive line holds up against Stockholm's front 7. I think they're winning all sides of offense. For them, it's going to be one of those situations of call the right plays, stick within yourself, don't try to force anything. If Will Von Kamp, if he's not making the plays, that's fine. Go to Albin. If he's not making the plays, that's fine. Go to Krippe. If he's not making the plays, that's okay. You always have young Kennedy who can do everything you need. Even if it really comes down to it, G-Man can run a little bit. You have a lot of options. If it gets to the point where you're not able to complete as many passes as you would like, buckle down, line up, run the ball. That offensive line is going to give you enough that you can just run the ball 3 plays and get a first down. But don't overthink it. I think that's what I would say to their offense more than anything is don't make this game bigger than what it is. Obviously, you want to win the championship, but you're the better team. And just remember that going into it. You are the better team. Therefore, you shouldn't have to be doing too much changes offensively. You should be able to run your offense the way that you want to run it. There's not a lot they could do defensively to make you change. So don't help them by making changes that aren't needed or aren't necessary at the time. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
agree with you, especially just the defense part. I think you said it way better than me. Just try to make Stockholm one-dimensional. Focus more on Casper than other receivers. No disrespect to them, but I think they got enough help on defense with the way they zone out things and having Roy Kelly. I think that's the best answer that you said.
Yeah. And so what about the meme machines? What do you think they can do to win this game?
Don't be one-dimensional. Casper's gonna have to step it up. I believe that Derek Green, he's gonna do a good job. He's gonna use his. I think he's gonna probably run a little bit more because I do think that Carlstad does an amazing job with his own coverage, but they got to make sure he stays protected because I think if he goes down, it's going to be a bad show for Stockholm. Make sure they can try to get to the lineman to the second level to block Matthias, and I think they should be fine running the ball, even QB runs. Then figure out a way to get the ball to your receivers. Hopefully, Matt get the confidence going for them. Defensively, I do think Stockholm defense has gotten better. I think having an American DB is helping them out, but also what's the other guy named number 22? Enoch or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know his name. I just call him 22. Big
The
swole
22
son of
because
a gun.
he hasn't made enough plays for you yet. And they got Khaled back there, Leo coming down there, making big hits on quarterbacks. I think they got enough weapons to slow down Carlstad dynamic receivers, but we'll see how they do, stopping the run. for Carlstad, because if they thinking how we thinking, oh, Carlstad is not giving the ball as much to Kennedy, so we see how that goes. I mean, that's if they can take that, Oh, another thing as well. Lastly, is Carlstad. I mean, Stockholm does an amazing job winning special teams. That can be a good factor for them. That special teams factor.
That's true. I think for me, when I'm thinking about what Stockholm can do offensively, I think it's pretty simple, but I want to go away from Casper because we're talking about him so much today. So I'm going to say, I think offensively, you want to keep Derek Green comfortable. And when I say keep him comfortable, I mean in the play calling and in the plays that are run. What I've noticed from his play so far is, when the play is called that, he can hit a deep receiver, but he doesn't have to, he's more likely to be more accurate. He throws a better pass. But normally when it's one of those like, oh, you got to get 8 or 9, and it's a pass play, everybody knows it's a pass play. So the zones and the routes, there's a lot less room for error. He has a little bit of trouble. I've seen a lot of errant throws when he's throwing that mid to deep ball, that 8 to 12 yard outside the hashes, outside the numbers. Those are the plays where I'm seeing, Robin Miranda, Anton Bloomgren have to make miraculous catches because the throw isn't really, where it needs to be, and his receivers have been able to help him. If I'm Stockholm Mean Machine, I'm looking at that and saying, let's not put him in that situation. Let's not make him have to throw those tough throws. Let's keep him comfortable so that he can run our offense effectively. I think that's the one thing that really slows this offense down is when they get in those situations where what they're going to do and they have to do it, it's harder for them to be successful. They're a better offense when you have to figure out what they're doing throughout the play. And it's similar to what we said about the Crusaders on the other side. It's like you want them to be throwing the ball constantly so you get them in bad situations. For the Mean Machine, you want to be able to run the ball, pass the ball whenever you want to. You want to always be in a situation where you feel like the whole playbook is open. As long as the whole playbook is open, Derek Green is going to get you what you need. Like, he's real smart with the ball. He'll make the right decisions. But if you force him into a situation where he has to do something, I mean, that's anybody. You put me in a situation I don't want to be in, I'm not going to perform how I want to. So I think for Mean Machine is just keep him in a comfortable situation. It goes back to what you said about the special teams as well. If they consistently have a short field, they know they have a kicker who can make a 35-yarder. They just got to get to the 25, or I guess a little bit inside 25. I mean, they can probably get 25 and still kick it. So for them, as long as that's the play is, hey, we know we just got to get, 30, 40 yards and we're in field goal range. We can get points, and that can change the way this game looks. They'll be fine offensively. And then on the defensive side for Stockholm, I would say the key to victory for them, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, is make the quarterback beat you. Make the quarterback beat you. And again, this isn't like saying that, oh, their quarterback is bad or anything. We moved on from that. But what I'm saying is when you're looking at Carlstad's offense, the offensive line is pretty good. The running back can run. You do not want them to be able to run against you. You don't want that to be a possibility because that opens up the passing game just as much. And that's not something you really want to deal with is what are you going to do? You want to take away the box. You want to take away all the run game from this team and make them one-dimensional in the fact that they're passing the ball deep. You don't want to allow those short, quick screens. They love to throw the quick screen to Krippe, quick screen to Will Van Kamp. They like to do the jet sweep. Take all that crap away because that's basically run game, but they're throwing the ball. We want to take all that away. That's what you want to focus on. If you got to put more people in the box, put more people in the box. You want to take away all their short game, make them beat you with actual pass concepts. Unlike when they play the Vikings, your corners aren't going to just let them run fades. So you don't have to too much worry about, if we press everybody, they're just going to go one-on-one. Now, their receivers are probably better than your corners, but your corners are good enough to be in position that the throw has to be perfect. And that's what you want. You want to make their quarterback make perfect throws. Now, on the backside of this, hey, G-Man can drop the ball in the bucket. So
he can. No, he
can. The last couple games, he's been putting that ball in spots where you like, shit, only his guy gonna catch that. Yeah. So again, That's not something that you want. But
Fire
if
emojis.
you're gonna get beat, that's how you want to get beat. You don't want to get beat by a team that's saying, "Hey, we're gonna throw it 3 yards and then our receiver gets 50." No, we want your quarterback to throw a 50-yard out route or a 50-yard corner and have to drop it right in the perfect spot in between the defender and the sideline. And if he catches that ball and that quarterback makes a great throw, you can live with that every day. If they consistently do that, shit, they should win. They deserve it. But you don't want to give them the opportunity to make it easy. And that's the hardest thing you can do against this team is force a quarterback to make good downfield throws. That's the hardest thing for a quarterback to do. Outside of that, everything else for them, that's easy. That's stuff that they can do in their sleep. They don't care if you're on the field or not. But if you're forcing a quarterback to make precise downfield throws, you got a chance that the throw won't be perfect. The receiver won't catch it. Something can happen. As long as you can keep them in that type of situation, you got a chance to create turnovers, a chance to stop drives, a chance to get your offense back on the field. And I think that's really the best way for this team to win is to force G-Man to be the best player in the game. Yeah. I think that's it for me. Yeah. Last things about this game. Anything about this game that really stands out to you that you like to talk about going into it? Because this is the final.
I'm just excited to see both of these teams because I think that both these teams work really hard, especially Carlstad. You know, they won the games they needed to win. Even though some people may say the first win over Tyresö might be flukish, you know, then Stockholm, their quarterback going out, you know. But now they got a chance to prove that, hey, we're going to beat them in the championship, you know, outright. They were the best team over there. And this wasn't an easy year for any of the teams in the playoffs, you know. I think maybe Carlstad may have the easiest, you know, but it was tough, you know. Every team fought hard. Every team that was in the playoffs. And, you know, even I'm not going to throw Limham in there. You know, you're going to do that. I'm doing a little extra by saying that.
The semifinals and the finals will be good, which is what they should be. Good. So basically, saying what I said before the season, why the hell were there 6 teams? Because that was just unnecessary. We just added an extra week of games.
I mean, the quarterfinals as well. You know what I mean? That was quite interesting.
Which game in the quarterfinals did you like? I wasn't on the pod that week. That's how
the Oslo and Black Knights. That was a good game.
I mean, if that's what you want to call it. I mean,
whatever. We focus on the championships. You know, we
championship. Sorry, championship.
No, I'm really excited to see this matchup. I think it's going to be one that you got to watch to the end. Hopefully, it's one that you got to watch to the end because if I see a blowout, you know, I'm doing your rule, turn it off. I got games this weekend myself.
I might actually watch. Well, yeah, if it's a blowout, ain't no point in watching. You're right. That makes sense. I think it's going to be a good game. I think we'll take a quick break and just jump into our picks now. Cause I feel like that's where we at.
Yeah. Drip, grind, and stand out. That's the Improved Athletes way. Improved Athletes, a European sports brand based in Milano. If you want to look good and be successful in athletics, go and head over to improveathletes.com to stand out with your new drip.
All right, it's time for our weekend picks, brought to you by our partners at Improve Athletes, where you can grind, drip, and stand out. Our picks will be available on Instagram at Pro Football Sweden, where you can make your comments. No need to flood the DMs. Keep everything on the algorithm. So only game that we have this weekend. I don't know why I wrote it in this weird order. Carlstad Crusaders versus Stockholm Mean Machines in Tyresö. Now is your time, Juice. Who is your pick and why?
This is a very challenging one. I know some people are going to hate me on my pick, but I would say this before I absolutely choose my pick. You know, this been a hard one. You know, it's almost like I'm about to pick up my hat. You know, just making my selection to which university I want to attend. like Vigo. But my gut feelings definitely says Stockholm is in Stockholm. You got to win it. It's in your backyard. However, I'm choosing my first love, my first city love,
Oh,
and
I
that
knew that.
Crusaders. And it's not just because it's my first city love, and not because they have the best kebabs that you'll ever have while you're in Sweden. Stockholm kebabs are trash. Just got to mention it on the pod.
I disagree 100% about this whole kebab thing. We're going to talk about this right now on the pod. Somebody besides Jalo Juice needs to tell me the difference between a Stockholm and a Carlstad kebab, because ever since
Oh
I
my
met
goodness.
you in 2018, you've been talking about Carlstad kebab. We were in Gothenburg and you were talking about Carlstad kebabs from day
Mm-hmm.
one. And that's all I've heard since. I've been to Carlstad once, but I didn't have a kebab. So I wouldn't know the difference. But someone,
Oh,
please,
there's a
if you're
major
watching
difference.
this, comment and let us know the difference in the kebabs, because I'm tired of hearing his excuse for the comments. I want to know from someone who's out there on a regular, has been from Carlstad to Stockholm. Tell me the difference in the kebabs, because I'm interested in knowing the difference between the kebabs. Kebab is
It's
kebab.
the sauce. It's the sauce. They have no sauce in Stockholm. They have no
Mhm.
sauce. That's the main thing. But getting back to the picks, though, I'm going with Carlstad. And the reason why I'm going with Carlstad is because I think that they're going to believe that they can win this game by keeping Stockholm one-dimensional. The zone coverage will be enough to handle Stockholm's receivers. And without Matthew Retzloff, I think that they feel even more confident to win this game. I do think Stockholm is going to put up a great fight. And if Stockholm does win this game, it wouldn't be a surprise for me because I do think that Stockholm in some parts are the better team, but I think that, Carlstad is just rolling over with this momentum. Slade Jarman is going to get it done. We was talking about, who's the best quarterback in the league, and we was all going with Tirso J.
Yeah,
Hayward. But I think that, Slay has switched it for everyone right now. He's throwing beautiful passes. And
I would agree
to be I'm like
100%. I agree
you know,
100%. We've
you know,
definitely gone. G-Man is now the best
yeah,
quarterback for
for
sure.
sure. You know what I mean? And he's probably like, oh yeah, now what? You know what I mean? Now you earned it, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at the beginning of the season, you was kind of iffy. You got to take it as it is. But now, he stepped it up. Hopefully, we motivated him, or like he had the self motivation himself. But point is, I think that he's going to do an amazing job. I think that he's going to be probably getting less sleep this week because he's going to be game planning with Kennedy, BK Kennedy. That's what I'm talking about. The coach. Um, yeah, and that's the main reason why I think that they're going to win. I think the defense is going to be able to keep Stockholm extremely down unless Stockholm come out with the trick plays. We've done that before in the championship game to beat Carlstad in 2019. But we'll see how it goes. I got both championships with both teams. And they both very familiar with being in the championships. So
Yeah,
see how this
two of
goes.
the best, two of the best organizations in Sweden. If you really think about it, TRSO is all talk, but again, I shouldn't talk about anybody else. Them and
Yeah.
AIK, boy, I tell you. Anyways, I honestly believe that the Carlstad Crusaders are the better team in this matchup. I think the Stockholm Mean Machines are the more experienced team. If you look at like who's on these rosters and who has played in championships, I think the Mean Machine are a little bit more accustomed to being in this game than the roster from Carlstad. So I think that's going to play into it. I think the game is in Tyresö, which is basically the outer rim of Stockholm. So Carlstad, even though they're technically the home team, they're going to have to travel to get there. While Mean Machine, I mean, they're still going to just take their cars to get to the game, I assume. I don't know how they do it. Maybe I know in Finland you get a hotel and stuff. I don't know if they do that here in Sweden, but I assume that you just treat it like another home game for Stockholm. I think that's going to have an effect on the game. I think for me, I'm still trying to decide who I want to pick because I can go either one or two ways. Look, on paper, everything is telling me Karlstad, but in my heart, everything is telling me Mean Machines. So I don't know what do I do, my head or my heart. And you know what? I'm just gonna stick to the consistent bias that I've had all year. I'm gonna say Stockholm Mean Machine win this game.
And
Uh,
I think that's a good pick for you. I think it's a good pick. That is a good pick.
So again, don't take my pick too seriously as an analysis of the actual game. I think that it'll be a close game like what we saw play against Tirso. It'll come down to moments. There's certain moments in games that really changes the total outcome. And people like to wait till the end of the game to decide, oh, well, if this would have happened at the end, or no, there's something that happened in the second quarter that butterfly affects the whole game. That's what I'm looking for. And I think this is going to be one of those games. There's going to be a drive here or a play there that, in my biased opinion, I wanted to let y'all know it's very biased. In my biased opinion, that the Mean Machine have proven time and time again that they can make these type of plays. And no disrespect to the Crusaders because they've won convincingly when they've started winning, but they haven't made those type of plays, in my opinion, where it's like you make this one play, it changes everything. And from that play, you don't have to get back or they don't have to return this and do that. This one play sets you up later in the game. I feel like Mean Machines do that every game. Every game you watch them play, you know what you're going to get from them. When they need to have a play, they make that play. And it doesn't seem like, oh, they got out of character to do it. While on the other hand, I think that the Carlstad Crusaders, they just got to win. Like if they get up in this game, it's a wrap. It's going to be over. Like I don't see the Mean Machine coming back. But if they let the Mean Machine hang around and it comes down to these moments, Mean Machine get another championship. And honestly, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't get another championship because they're the only team that's proven it. Again, after this game, if Crusaders win, I need a shirt and a hat, and I'm all Team Crusaders after this. But before this, I had to stick with the squad that got me in Sweden in the first place, and that's the Mean Machine. I feel like if anybody can do it, they can. So purely off of heart and soul, they're going to win this game. Probably by like a field goal, too. It might be one of the situations. Maybe they go for 2 after a touchdown at the end of the game, and that's the difference. Because they're a team that they do that. Like, that's a normal thing for them. That's not a normal thing for almost anyone else in the league. But for the Mean Machine, you think about the impossible way to win a game, they've done that. Oh, yeah, that's all I got on it.
That's all Gucci.
I thought you were going to say something. I thought you were going to say something else about it. My bad.
Nah, not at all. I was about to think about it was another time I played in Stockholm when we lost to Carlstad in the championship, and we should have won. And it was like a really low scoring game because I was trying to think, what would the score be to this game? This was 2020.
Oh, yeah.
COVID year.
Let's start out a score. What are you thinking? Let's start out a score. What are you thinking?
I mean, there was a low scoring game last time when they played. When I say low scoring, it was less than 25.
Yeah.
To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if there's only about 2 touchdowns in the game and maybe some extra field goals. Safety if they get in that position with field position. So I'm saying Carlstad is winning. I'm saying 20 to 14. 20, 14.
I'm going high. I'm going to say Stockholm wins 33 to 32. I agree with you. I think there's going to be some field goals in there. And I think if each of them gets 2 field goals, that gives them a little bit more than 25 points. I think they could each score 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns, like 21, and then give one team 6 points for field goals. So what's that? 6 plus 21, 28. And then I give another team 9 points for field goals. So they have 32. Yeah, let me go 32-28. No. Because also I'm giving somebody like a 2-pointer. So 31-32. That's what I'm going to go with. 31-32.
If it was Tirso playing, you never know. They going for 2 every time. Then sometimes, it end up being a normal score.
Yeah, true. That's why doing the scores is crazy because you never know what it is. But I think we covered it enough, and we'll get out of here now. Hey there, sports fans. Are you interested in exciting sports of American football, flag football, or field hockey? Well, look no further because Suite 3, the Swedish association for these sports, has got you covered. Suite 3 is not just about games. They're about building a community, players of all ages and backgrounds coming together, supporting each other, and having an absolute blast on the field. Suite 3 is proud to be an advocate for the Swedish sports movement where integrity and sportsmanship reign supreme. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, come join Suite 3 and experience the magic of sports like never before. Visit the Suite 3 website and get in on the action today. Suite 3, where passion meets purpose. All right, that's it for this episode of Pro Football in Sweden. Anything we missed that needs to be discussed? Anything you want to throw out there, Juice?
Let me look at my notes. Man, it was just a few shout outs that I missed, number 88. I liked how he stepped up for, Carlstad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and, Malcolm Instrom, he did an amazing job for 2 years so, this past week. And yeah, we touched on everything, to be honest, in my opinion. I liked these last games, And if we're closing out, I don't know if you missed anything. I was just gonna say, man, uh, all the teams that played this year, we talked some trash about some of you guys. We talked good about some of you guys. Don't take anything to heart. It's football. It's analysis. This is feedback. As I say all the time, your film is your resume. And we're gonna call you out if you do something bad. We're gonna call you out if you do something good. We're gonna applaud you, pat you on the back, And Slade Jarman is one guy that we talked about at the beginning of the season, was iffy, and he turned himself around. And look at that story. And that's one thing you can learn from adversity too, because I'm pretty sure his teammates or somebody bringing it up, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, or listen to this. And some of these things can get into some people's head, but he gotten better as the season went on. He stepped it up, and I love that type of attitude. If he was listening to these things, hopefully that he is listening to it, and hopefully he put a like or a comment down below. But good luck to the teams in the championship, all the teams that had the heartbreaking season. I feel you. I feel you. And, pick it up next year. Don't think like, nah, man, we got to get on a new team. Fix yourself, fix the people around you, encourage them. In a few months, start putting the work together. Remember that feeling that you guys had right there when you lost, so that you guys can have a competing season next year. And yeah, that's my words of motivation for those other guys. And don't forget, again, be swaggy next year too. And guys who come to the championship game, please be swaggy. You look better, you feel better, and you're gonna play better.
See, I should have went first because you saying all these nice motivational things. I'm out here just talking mess. Okay, it is what it is. What Alpha said was your film is your resume, not your
Amen.
stats. Not your stats. I just want to make that clear because one thing that I've noticed, and obviously it's not happening to me personally, but people love throwing out these stats like that means something. Like you can have the greatest stats in the world. When I turn on your film, if it don't match your stats, I don't care about your stats no more.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't think your stats are real. I think that those are inflated. And that's one thing that you've noticed if you've been paying attention to the podcast, we don't really mention player stats. We don't get into the whole like stat pad and stuff because those numbers can be deceiving. They can be manipulated. There's situational awareness that you have to think about it. But your film, that never lies. If you beat somebody, you beat somebody. Who cares what I mean? If it say you got 10 yards or 100 yards, if I can see that you're better than that player, that's the fact of the matter. So that's just something I want to throw out there about these stats. And again, I'm trying not to be negative, but I got to speak my truth. All you teams that did make it to the playoffs, all you D1 comer uppers, go back to the drawing board. That's what I say. Personally, I still think we need to cut this whole 6 teams to the playoff thing. Let's just make it 4. Make it actually tough to be. But also, a lot of those teams that didn't make the playoffs this year, we saw the difference. The difference between the top and the bottom was very easy to see. The top team has better players. They didn't do anything special. There's a lot of situations where the lower end teams, when we look at them on the film, again, the film doesn't lie. Their players aren't as good. They can't compete against who they're playing against. And for you teams that are part of those lower teams, don't take that as he's just hating and da-da-da. No, it means get in the lab, put in some offseason work, and get better. Stop trying to scheme up new plays and maybe start practicing, getting better at your technique, learning your craft, getting coached up, going elsewhere to learn, doing something different so that you become better players. I think that's the biggest takeaway I've had from this season is that the lower level teams aren't nearly as mentally sound, and then they're also not coached as well as the top teams. And whether some teams think that, we just need a coach to get better, or some teams think, we need to practice to get better, you probably need both. Some of these teams need to reevaluate their coaching staff, reevaluate their off-season programs, reevaluate their recruiting techniques and who they're getting to their team, and get it fixed. Because I tell you one thing, this season has been tough for me watching a lot of bad football when I felt like some of these teams were giving me good football, especially the top tier teams. I'm willing to just watch the top tier teams if these lower tier teams can't bridge the gap. And again, I don't believe in the whole participation trophies. I do not want to hear from all these players in the offseason about I played in a Super Serien, but you played for one of the teams that came in last place. Like I don't want to hear that. Don't send me a message. I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me. I need you to show me quality playing. Okay. Again, like what Alpha said about the film. Your film doesn't lie. If you can say you played in this league, but you can't show me film of you dominating or winning in the league, I don't care that you played in this league. It's not a superlative. It's not an accomplishment. It's not an accolade. It's just something that happened. It's a fact, but it's not anything that actually makes you better. So again, I'm trying not to say I went as negative as I could. I'm trying not to be that negative. Positive. I'm excited about the championship. I want to end on a positive. Obviously, I think this is going to be an awesome championship. I love that it's in Tyresö instead of Stockholm, a different location. I'm really interested. I won't be able to make the game because of my own personal reasons, but I am really interested to see how many people show up, even if you're not from the Stockholm team or the Carlstad team. If you're from Sweden, you're involved in the football, this is a game you should be going to. Whether you're rooting for either team or you wish that they both lose and it ends up in a draw. I know that's how probably some AIK fans feel or Tyresö fans feel. Like, I hope both teams lose. That's fine. Still go to the game. Support the team, support the culture, support the sport here in Sweden. There's a lot of big things up on the horizon. I won't give that stuff away. But, how the fan base and the community shows up to this championship game is going to be looked at outside of just Sweden. It's going to be looked at outside by the world. Like, do they really have a fan base here? There's a lot of talk about ELF franchises and stuff. This is an opportunity for you guys to show that football in Sweden is worth committing to, worth being a part of, worth sponsoring for some people. So just show up to the game. If you can't show up to the game, watch it on, Sweet 3 Play. We're partnered with them as well. Watch it on that app. They do a decent job. I'm assuming Stockholm's going to do it, so it'll be a really good visual of this game.
And listen to that guy. Did you hear that guy say the F word on the thing?
I don't listen to the broadcast, and that's just a thing I don't do.
Oh, you turn it off.
I always turn it off. I've been doing that for years.
I gotta see the clip. He's like, I hope they don't F it up. And I was like, he's like, oh, excuse my language.
Well, again, that too. If the broadcast is good, listen to him, support him.
He doesn't do that too often, but he was definitely cheering for Stockholm, and you could tell that he was from Stockholm side.
Well, definitely.
I know. I wanted to end with one thing though, and it's a little bit, touching. For some guys who had season-ending injuries, and you probably decide, hey, football is done for me. Try to give back as best as possible. If you're gonna be still in Sweden, try to stay connected with football somehow. If that can be coaching, or if you had a bad experience and that's the end of your season and you wanted to make a difference, remember that energy of those coaches and those players and those people who made you have that bad experience and give a good experience if you still have that love for the game. I really love football, but I had bad coaches. I really love football, but I got injured. I really love football, but I'm not that good. Maybe you're a better coach. And also, if you can't coach really well, you still want to get involved. Maybe you have a job somewhere that has a company. Have them sponsor the local football team. And you help out with the photos, graphics, or something like that, just to bring that connection. Because we want American football to grow in Europe, because American football is giving a lot of people opportunities that can change your life. Some people come over to Europe, they meet someone, they settle down here, they love the game. For myself, allowed me to go to university for free for the last 2 years, 2.5 years that I was at university. Brought me to Europe. You never know what it can bring. It can bring you to America, bring you to Germany. You meet your love of your life. You never know what type of connection, but one thing that we do know, when you have the right coaching staff, you enjoy it. When you have the right players, you enjoy it. You have that family vibe. You're part of a community, and that disciplined nature that you get, because this is one sport where you really need every single person. Every single person. Every sport should be like that, but it's just something about our sport where you need everybody to win a game. So don't get disheartened from losing, injuries, or whatever, bad coaches. Give back to the sport, allow it to grow in Europe, and especially in your home country in Sweden. Get back to those little children who look up to you or look up who have these big dreams. Maybe help them out, train them, something like that. I know I'm rapping, but
Yeah,
this
you're
this is
right.
my passion. It's my passion.
Yeah, of course. And good luck to both teams this weekend. We'll be back next week for our probably final episode of the season to wrap up this game with our opinions and analysis. So please like, follow, and subscribe on all social channels at Pro Football in Sweden. And we'll see you next week, guys. Take it easy.
Peace out. Hey, though.